Greetings and peace. I would like to start this with Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful, and Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Peace be with you and yours. Today's presentation, I would like to talk about Harry Potter being an export of British intelligence to the world. I hope you benefit from this, and I represent myself only. A disclaimer that this presentation is a hypothetical, scholarly, and speculative academic exploration created solely for nonprofit educational purposes. It represents only the presenter's personal intellectual analysis and does not assert any factual allegations about individuals, institutions, authors, or intelligence organizations. All content herein falls under fair use, allowances for commentary, criticism, research, and academic inquiry under free speech. All themes, including the hypothetical concept of Harry Potter as a British intelligence creation, are examined strictly as cultural theory frameworks used to explore myth-making, soft power, and national identity. This work does not intend harm, defamation, or accusations against any involved parties and approaches all subjects with academic neutrality. Nations have historically shaped cultural narratives as tools of soft power, using literature, film, folklore, and myth to subtly influence international perception. Major cultural products often serve national objectives by embedding symbolic values, national aesthetics, and ideological motifs that resonate globally. This presentation investigates Harry Potter through a speculative academic lens that asks how Britain, without implying orchestration, might benefit from the franchise's global impact. The aim is to explore theoretical connections between culture, power, mythology, and national identity. Historians and communication theorists frequently note that intelligence agencies worldwide have influenced cultural production, propaganda, and psychological narratives. These precedents inspire speculative frameworks that ask whether major cultural exports may align intentionally or unintentionally with state interest. Harry Potter contains numerous features traditionally associated with British national identity: elite boarding schools, monarchy-style hierarchies, ancient castles, and arcane traditions. These symbolic elements invite academic speculation about their cultural and political significance. The United Kingdom has long relied on cultural influence as a key element of its global strategy, projecting imagery through literature, museums, BBC broadcasts, and university systems. Cultural exports strengthen Britain's international identity by embedding British aesthetics and values in global media. From Shakespeare to Sherlock Holmes, British fiction has historically served as a conduit for national prestige. Within this broader tradition, Harry Potter can be analyzed as a modern exemplar of Britain's soft power reach. The franchise's unprecedented commercial and cultural success has reinforced global fascination with British culture, from the architecture of Oxford to the mystique of medieval landscapes of Scotland. Its global visibility offers Britain a powerful symbolic export that strengthens identity through nostalgia, magic, and heritage. By positioning Britain as the guardian of ancient esoteric knowledge and mystical traditions, Harry Potter subtly constructs an alluring national brand that blends scholarship, folklore, and aristocratic imagery. The Harry Potter films and literary sites have generated billions in tourism revenue, drawing visitors to castles, libraries, filming locations, and studio experiences across the UK. Cultural tourism remains one of the most economically effective forms of soft power. Because tourism materially affects the GDP, critics argue that the British state benefits substantially from the franchise's global enchanted aura. Even without direct involvement, the nation gains diplomatic and economic advantage. Harry Potter's world normalizes magic, divination, astrology, and esoteric symbolism in a coming-of-age structure that appeals to young readers seeking identity and empowerment. These motifs offer psychological pathways for engaging with mystery and hidden knowledge. Cultural theorists argue that occult-inflected stories appeal to young audiences because they dramatize the discovery of personal power, special destiny, and secret worlds, timeless archetypes in global mythology. Witches, wizards, and warlocks in Harry Potter reflect universal archetypes: sages, mystics, shamans, and guardians of forbidden knowledge. These figures serve as symbolic intermediaries between the mundane world and the unseen realities. By framing magical identity as innate, inherited, or discovered, the narrative invites readers to imagine themselves as participants in a hidden realm, strengthening the franchise's psychological grip. British history is deeply intertwined with occult societies, such as the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, the Theosophical movements, and the various post-Victorian magical orders. These groups contributed to both literary and spiritual culture in the UK. This legacy forms the cultural soil from which later British mystical narratives, including fantasy literature, emerge. The imprint of these esoteric traditions remain visible in modern British storytelling. Aleister Crowley, often called one of the most influential occultists of the 20th century, remains central in studies of British esotericism. His work combined ceremonial magic, mysticism, and experimental metaphysics. Even though Crowley has no direct relationship to Harry Potter, scholars note that Britain's reputation for magical subcultures was shaped in part by figures like him, creating cultural associations that later fiction could draw upon. And of course, Crowley was MI6, so that British intelligence connection. I have also written a book on the influence of Islam and Sufism on Aleister Crowley, and this book documents, with sources, how Crowley integrated Islamic mystical traditions, particularly Sufi contemplative practices, into his historic worldview, and how he was basically an agent of British intelligence. This cross-cultural influence highlights how British occult movements often drew on global mystical traditions, and it also reveals the syncretic nature of esoteric culture, which later fantasy worlds echo symbolically. So now Crowley was mainly focused on the East, right? Him traveling to North Africa and the Middle East. And we see that in the Harry Potter world as well, that there is a diverse population of wizards and witches of all different backgrounds inside Hogwarts. So you have the Indian sisters, right, whom they go to the prom with, that prom event that they do. Then you have Cho Chang, whom Harry sometimes has a crush on, the Chinese basically participant in Hogwarts. So you see that occult international community even with Hogwarts. Across history, intelligence agencies have analyzed myth, ritual, symbolism, and archetypes for psychological insight and cultural influence. These studies explored how narratives shape national identity and collective behavior. While there is no evidence linking Harry Potter to such programs, this context helps explain why speculative theories situate the franchise within broader conversations about narrative influence and state interest. Literary critics have observed structural or thematic similarities between Harry Potter and earlier works, such as The Worst Witch, the Books of Magic, and classic boarding school fantasies. These parallels often arise naturally in genre fiction. In literary scholarship, influence is not accusation. Repeated motifs reflect archetypal patterns found across mythic and fantasy traditions, rather than direct copying. Mythological literature across civilizations contain recurring patterns: heroic orphans, mystical teachers, magical education, and secret societies. These shared structures inform countless modern narratives. Thus, similarities between Harry Potter and prior works can be read as evidence of archetypal storytelling rather than imitation, reinforcing the universality of magical coming-of-age tales. The wizarding world reflects aspects of British heritage: ancient institutions, hierarchical order, noble lineages, and mystical landscapes. This aesthetic mirrors Britain's own historical self-presentation. Fiction of this kind serves as an informal myth-making mechanism, helping both domestic and international audiences imagine Britain as a land of ancient secrets and enchanted traditions. Hogwarts resembles elite British boarding schools blended with medieval guild structures and monastic educational traditions. Its architecture and rituals evoke a sense of ancient cultural authority. By absorbing these influences, the school becomes a symbolic microcosm of British heritage, reinforcing the nation's cultural identity in the global imagination. So, in Britain, even with my experience being a part of institutions over there and visiting Britain several times, over there it's not really about your race or religion or your other factors which come in play in American society. Over there it's like a class-based elitism where they'll ask you, okay, what school did you go to, right? And where were you accepted? Where were you groomed? So those are the things that matter more in British society in terms of the classism that's there and how that elite British boarding school aspect is in Harry Potter. Declassified documents in multiple nations reveal cases where intelligence agencies have shaped or supported films and literature for strategic purposes. These examples inform theoretical frameworks in cultural studies. Such historical precedents inspire academic speculation about how governments might indirectly benefit from highly successful narratives even without direct involvement. Large cultural phenomena invite interpretive theories whenever they align with national economic, political, or cultural advantage. Harry Potter's global reach naturally encourages deeper readings. The more influential a narrative becomes, the more scholars explore its connection to identity, power, myth-making, and socio-political symbolism. Academic theories propose that intelligence agencies observe youth subcultures to track generational psychology. Fiction centered on secrecy, magical initiation, and hidden knowledge may hypothetically reveal individuals drawn to symbolic or unconventional thought. Historical evidence from multiple countries shows that intelligence agencies have studied occult symbolism, ritual, and myth for psychological and cultural insights. In a speculative framework, fascination with magical worlds could incidentally identify individuals who excel in abstract analysis. And what did Harry want to do? Right? He wanted to become an auror in the Ministry of Defense, which is basically like a wizard or like a police or an intelligence type of agent for the Ministry of Defense, which is basically, being who he was for the British intelligence agencies. And even if you ask, let's say, some of the people in American or British intelligence currently who are in their 20s or 30s, that were you a fan of Harry Potter growing up? 9 out of 10, they would say yes. And that's how, that mind and that interest is, let's say, kind of recruited through that sense, through that subculture and subconscious planting of the seed. How many even American students talk about the GATE program and doing the weird puzzles in schools and doing the sound test. So this starts at a young age. The franchise expands British soft power through global tourism, cultural fascination, academic interest, and widespread adoption of British symbols, accents, and settings. Harry Potter functions as an unofficial cultural ambassador, reinforcing Britain's mystique, historical aura, and cultural prestige worldwide. Analysts sometimes draw symbolic comparisons between the wizarding world's division of wizards, witches, muggle-borns, and non-magical muggles with esoteric initiatory systems found in Western mystery traditions. In Freemasonry, for example, the distinction between the initiate and the profane mirrors the boundary between magical insiders and ordinary outsiders. Harry's status as a child protected by his mother's sacrifice has also been read as a briefly paralleling the archetype of the widow's son, right? Where Harry was a widow's son for a brief second. a symbolic figure in Masonic lore representing vulnerability, rebirth, and spiritual inheritance. Additionally, the presence of the United Grand Lodge of England, the mother Grand Lodge of Global Freemasonry, located in London, adds a layer of synchronicity for symbolic analysts who explore cultural narratives. While these comparisons are speculative, they highlight how Harry Potter's initiatory themes, secret orders, moral trials, and layered cosmology resonate with broader Western esoteric structures that emphasize hidden knowledge, hierarchical learning, and the movement from ignorance into enlightenment. Modern fictional universes shape not only entertainment but collective imagination, embedding cultural memory within globally consumed narratives. These stories became symbolic maps of how nations see themselves. By studying Harry Potter through speculative cultural theory frameworks, we gain insights into the evolving relationships among myth, national branding, esoteric motifs, and the machinery of cultural power. Here are some references that I recommend, including my book on Crowley and Islam, and also just to study British esotericism, soft power theory, intelligence studies, Freemasonic symbolism, myth-making, and comparative magical traditions, right? And even Joseph Nye's soft power theory, Francis Yates's research on Hermetic traditions, Iliad's studies of myth, and academic literature exploring the intersection of secrecy, initiation, and cultural identity. Thank you for your attention. I hope you enjoyed this presentation. And thank you for watching. If any questions or comments, please email me at salmansheikh911@gmail.com. And again, this presentation is for entertainment and education purposes under the copyright laws of fair use for free speech, education, nonprofit, and entertainment purposes. Thank you so much.